Hello, everyone, and welcome to another D. Hilton Associates webinar. Today is going to be part 4 of our compensation forecast looking into 2023 as we discuss some of the big HR topics that we're going to be pressed up against to be able to determine how to actually solve some of these issues moving along into the next year. We figured that it would be a good opportunity to take some time to actually have a conversation about these because just having that compensation forecast is a great thing, but then having John Andrews actually go through and talk about some of the strategies and ideas behind what we're talking about, we figured it was worthwhile devoting some of the time to that. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mr. John Andrews. How are you, John?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jeff?
So far, so good.
Good. You had the kids this weekend.
I did. I said the very good thing was that I survived as well as the kids survived. So
Thank goodness.
I'm 1 for 1 on this one.
Okay, let's keep the streak going. Appreciate everybody joining us today. We're on section 4 of our top 5 trends for 2023, and today we're really going to focus on career pathing and how people get from point A to B. So a really good way to start today is, Jeff, like when you were growing up, your parents told you about, life in your career. You probably heard things like pay your dues, nose to the grindstone. Did your dad have a good one?
Oh, it was, no, nothing particular. It was just, it's a ladder. You work hard, you'll earn your way up, you'll continue moving through the corporate ladder, whatever the case may be.
Just work hard, pay your dues, and get there.
Head down.
And then our challenge today is not everybody. Well, first of all, it didn't work out for their parents, staying with a job for life for 30 years. And then the next, generations have been more realistic about that and looking at where they want to take their career. So again, I think one of the things we can see in 23 is this idea of flexibility, right? We can't put career paths together for people and everybody's going to just be enthralled with the direction, the pace, whatever.
It was very linear in the past.
It was so linear.
Yeah.
So today we're going to kind of talk about that and see what strategies we can look for going forward. So first slide I have for you is, and this is something we've developed at D. Hilton. So if you go back to for 50 years when credit unions started, we were function-oriented systems. How did you define success as an employee? How did your boss say you were doing a great job? You solved problems. You got permission before you did anything. You had a very narrow scope of permissible ways you could address a member request or fill out a fulfillment request. It was very process focused. It was almost like NASCAR pit stop. If we could do it in 10 seconds, can we do it in 9 seconds? And that was a definite success. But because it was such a narrow scope, very few people created value. And if you think you were a cog in the machine, we just were poster kids for that, meaning, you do this part, you can't be creative, you can't do anything other than, this narrow parameter of almost like analog, right? Toggle switch, yes or no, you could do this or not my department, not my job, you'll have to see somebody else. And it didn't really jive with service at all. And then people were reactive. The classic was order takers, right? We're just order takers. Well, in the late 90s, some consultants got a hold of this process and said, we can fix this. We need to be more sales. We need to be sales and service. And so all of a sudden, and it was like mom, apple pie and Chevrolet, like they would go, of course, all this sounds awesome. So let's go seek opportunities. Let's take the initiative. Let's focus on the members' needs. If they came in here for a car loan and we saw a 21% Citibank Visa card, by gosh, they're leaving with our credit card because shame on us if they don't do it. That sounds great. Everybody in the credit union created value. They create this value chains of what you do to be successful, and then you're proactive. The problem or challenge we've had for 20 years is we tried to have this sales competency executed by a service competency hire. We hired people to do things right, black or white, follow the rules, and guess what? They were uncomfortable selling.
Yep. There's where you got your scripts. Okay, let me talk to you about, I see that there's 3 things popping up on my screen that I would like to talk to you about. Do I have permission to talk about those?
You wouldn't want a credit card,
yeah.
would you, Jeff?
Please?
I didn't think so, but they're making me ask you.
The guy behind me is really making me do this.
He's big. So, we had to process this idea of we had some people just thrive, but guess what? They had sales competencies. We didn't know it. But the majority of people, just didn't feel confident environment. So we had a lot of really great member contact people go to the back office because we didn't keep score that way, And then there was a few people in the back office that saw these wonderful riches people were making from their sales commissions. And then we had really great back office people that really weren't that great with people becoming really mediocre front of the house people. So it was this quandary, so to speak. And then where we're evolving, I think, that's happened since COVID is this idea is resilience and adaptability. If you're really going to serve a member, you got to know more than just your job. And we got to give them permission to do more than just their job. But every one of the competencies that you're hiring from custodian up to CEO, there's going to be this digital tech fluency concept that's going to be there. So it's not an or anymore, it's an and.
Yep.
I got to hire core lending and in a technologically proficient manner. So even take a call center. Every time Apple changes an operating system, you're going to get a boatload of contact calls because their watch doesn't work, their iPad doesn't work, and on and on and on. So this idea of cross-functional collaborations, we see that in sales comp right now. Who gets credit for what?
Yeah.
And we have to, we've had assignments where we referee this. The member starts on the phone, goes to the computer, goes into a branch, and
verifies on their app while they're in the branch.
and I did a planning meeting 3 weeks ago, and one of the marketing guys had mapped out how to open an account process. It was 137 touch points.
Phew.
And I go, we're missing the point. 132 of them might be automatic, never seen, automated. So are we going to focus on 137 and make it 100, or do you want the 5 that we actually have human beings touch, do those need to be better? It's a different question. And we're seeing the cross-functional ability to see where it goes is going to be very valuable. And then we see, how do we manage our time and how do we look at emotional intelligence are going to be key things going into the next decade.
Yeah. This is a lot of those situations of why, you've heard that, in a few years, the jobs that are posted today are going to be completely obsolete. And
that's a slide later, Jeff.
Oh, I'm jumping ahead. See, I have this foresight of where we're going and understand where.
It's like when you had a test, like with a number 2 pencil, do not open your test booklet yet.
Oh, I didn't have to open it. You just bend back the pages just a little bit. You're good to go.
You would cut the corners. I know you would.
Don't hear it.
We talk about this is because it's cultural driven. So one of the biggest pieces of feedback you get culturally is how am I doing a good job comes down to how we look at performance management because they're supposed to be aligned, right? So when we look for 50 years, if you looked at an evaluation, it was neat and tidy desk. You showed up at 8 o'clock if that's when you start, not 8:02. If you had 10 transactions to do, you did 10 transactions correctly. You were process, compliance driven, and you had just a laundry list of requirements and to-dos.
Very policy, procedure, process, tactical, that was it.
Well, it came from the military.
Yeah.
We said, we need you to do this to make us successful, and we followed that rule.
And the big way of that is, what gets measured gets done, and it was easy to measure those things.
And that's my point with cultural alignment. If you're going to keep score that way, by gosh, if you're an employee, you're going to keep score the same way because it impacts raises, promotions, on and on and on. So we went into this sales culture. We still were follow the rules people because we're financial institutions and you can't go too crazy as I would like to give you a 0.0% mortgage today.
Because I like you today.
But it also came, KPIs, key performance indicators. We started to get some ideas with, okay, what does this job have to be successful? So it was progress. And then also what came back is because of 08 and 09 and Wall Street and all that stuff, clawbacks, the idea of like, we'll let you go sell, but by gosh, if we see you doing something we don't like, we're gonna have the right to.
We like what you did. We don't like how you did it.
The how,
yep,
is what we needed to control. But as we move into this next, iteration of our evolution of our business, we're still going to be follow the rules, people. I mean, we're a financial institution. We have auditors, examiners. We have
regulatory pressures,
and so we're gonna, that's it. But that can be the only definition of success. So we're going to be looking more at experience, how well you created that differentiation. And then this awesome thing, when we talked about this before this year about, the 3 or 4 question performance review that says, would you put them on a team? If you had more money, would you give it to them? So it's the manager simply has confidence to let you do your thing. And culturally, why that's so powerful, that's kind of like the Nordstrom concept. The one sentence employee handbook that says, do whatever you think you need to do to make the customer happy. And if you have a question, ask your boss.
Your manager.
Ask your manager. So as we go through this, we question everybody going forward when you're looking at a future, or the trend is, does your performance management system really align with culturally what you're trying to do with the business? And now we do this omni-channel thing. Who gets credit for what? So actually we see a lot more interest in gain share plans as opposed to individual plans. So it's coming full circle.
Yep.
So you could be a great salesman, but if you can't hand it off correctly, or it goes to another part of the ether and comes back and you're not tracking it, there's so many different ways that we can be successful. And, I have a lot of CEOs just simply saying, I don't want to be spending 80% of our time tracking this. How well did we collectively do as a credit union?
Yeah.
So we're seeing that as an interesting way to look at the future.
And this is a big cultural change, because a lot of times we'll have conversations about these in a performance management piece, and you can see the trust isn't there.
No, the trust is huge.
Yeah, and it's a big portion of this that you have to be able to understand and trust the people that are doing the work, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I don't trust you, I'm going to set up a stage that makes it where you have no trust, and then you're going to feel that you have no trust and autonomy, and it just kind of perpetuates.
I'm feeling that right now, Jeff.
Oh, it's crazy talk. I trust you. Go to the next slide.
Okay. So when we're looking for the type of individual that's going to be successful, so 50 years ago, that follow the rules person was just the poster child for being a great employee. And then it was that salesperson, because boy, you could really sell our stuff. You were going to be the poster child for this. And now this combination of core competency plus this digital fluency is going to be successful. So when we look at performance management systems, these are things we think would be very valuable for a frontline appraiser to talk about. So even, we're not asking you to change your forms, but work some of this into the dialogue, and you're going to have a really good discussion.
Yep.
What's your favorite?
For me, emotional intelligence, actually.
Why is that?
I think that it really demonstrates, when you have emotional intelligence, that you have the wherewithal to understand exactly how situations are impacting you. And if you see somebody, one of the biggest things in leadership is same way with high-level sports individuals. It's the capability of slowing things down.
Yes, of
and
course.
Emotional intelligence, if you have an individual who understands that they're being affected or impacted by something, somebody came in yelling or something along that line, they're able to understand how they're being impacted by that, and they're understanding how they can actually provide service from that. That, to me, is somebody that has the capability of expanding and growing.
Put my name on that one.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah. I like that one.
Emotional intelligence is my favorite too, Jeff.
There you go.
Yeah, but I think about that as, when the game slows down, whether in baseball, we're in the playoffs now, but if you see the rotation of the ball, you know what's coming, and the ball looks bigger. All those cliches that you've heard. So you've got a frantic person in front of it. If you got experience and you can, stress match stress, like especially with puppy dogs, right? If they know you're stressed, guess what?
They sense it immediately.
Boom.
Yep.
So members can do that same thing, right? So if you can be that calming voice and say, I can try this, or I need to get in their face and really be direct and say, we'll not treat people like that, whatever. I think that's going to be very valuable.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be, the challenge is, it's almost like a matrix, right? Because you need that, but you need it by different platforms or delivery channels, right?
Absolutely. Well, that's the intelligence part of it. You got to know when to apply and when to actually.
We've talked about that. The idea is like, when we do market pricing, we do value an on-person job, a contact center person more than an in-person, because
it's very easy to yell at somebody over the phone, and they're taking that all day, every day. Click, pick up another one. Click, pick up another one.
Yeah, so that goes into it. So when we go through that list, we're not saying overhaul your performance management systems. We're saying work these themes into your dialogue and your coaching.
Yep.
And I think you're going to be happy with that cultural alignment between, we're going to hire for this, we're going to manage to this, we're going to review off of this, and hopefully we can reward and recognize off of this.
And this is kind of the same thing of when you have your pillars in which your organization is founded upon. Everything that you do in the organization should kind of correlate to one of those pillars, whether it be tell the truth, whatever the case may be. Same thing here. It's not really evolving. It's just keeping these in the back of your mind of how are we grading these? Are we bringing these to the forefront? What are some of the things that we're training for and developing in the individuals? And a lot of these are one of the keys for soft skills as well, to be able to develop these individuals. If you're measuring it, then you know where you need to really increase things.
Great point. So we're not going to bore you. We can all stipulate that there's not as many people wanting to work today, correct?
I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't heard that at all.
But again, we went through that in the 90s when the dot-com world was hiring janitors for $100,000 and we were paying 30. We saw it. We've sent so many cycles with this. So this idea of let's work with what we got is going to be very important. So this idea of internal talent mobility. So don't give up on that as a resource. What happens is we need to stop thinking of it as the silos, and I know a lot of our clients do a good job of this, but get to know your employees.
Yeah. Something simple, straightforward as that.
So we had a lunch, just a Friday lunch, just kind of an impromptu, hey, we got food, come to the cafeteria, and we're sitting there. And our new controller is a bass player, and he knew all the same bands that I knew from New Orleans, which was incredible. And all of a sudden, now we've got a little band.
Of course. All those things connect.
The problem is we've got 4 percussionists, a bass player.
We got a lot of rhythm going on.
But, the idea, but I use that as an example of, you hire for someone, they get pigeonholed into it. You do performance management. The only way you're going to define success is follow the rules and know this loan policy. And all of a sudden you might have this really gifted back of the house person that's what we need to coach them into that direction. So when low employment is out there and people are changing jobs, how can we work on customizing and showing them a picture that up or out is not the only definition of success?
The other thing, of course, being a compensation person, I always push very heavily to the clients is internal mobility is great. But if you're giving them the loyalty penalty, say, the market is paying $60,000 and you've got an internal person you can put in there for 45, so you do that, you got to bridge that gap somewhere. We got to close that gap a little bit more.
This is not the place to find a deal.
Yes.
This is the place to say they've predisposed, they bought into your culture, your value proposition, and reward that, not say, aha,
I can save $1 or $2 here.
Yeah, not what we're defining here is why we go internal. Put my name on that one too.
Okay, done.
So when we look at what leaders want most right now, and emotional intelligence on the top, understanding that different generations will want different things, and then just being creative and problem solving is going to be very important. Millennials are ready to take the lead. They're ready to manage. They're ready to do those things that sometimes in a follow the rules culture, we're not allowing them to do. And we're saying that if the leadership skills are good, that's going to be part of your culture and you're going to have more chance to retain. Yep. Simple as that.
Is it funny that we still think of millennials as like 20-somethings?
They are.
No, they're 30s now.
No. So when we look at this, the impact of skills on performance, if we don't start stepping up and getting more people into these jobs internally, this is what we're seeing the market telling us, and this is a Price Waterhouse thing. You're missing your growth. You're having a bad experience with a customer member. The costs are going to be bigger because you're replacing them, and then you're ineffective with your innovation because it just comes to. If you're in the 5-year technology plan, you lose your chief technology person in year 3, might as well start over. Right?
Yeah. And the big thing here is, I think you've alluded to it quite a lot, is that these are cultural shifts, they're cultural changes, and having new leadership of a different generation brings in a certain different level of culture.
Right.
The big thing there is make sure to define the culture of what makes you actually special. What is the culture you're actually driving for?
And I'm pushing real hard this idea of this has to be multimedia, feel good. You need to use multiple channels to get out there what your value proposition is. You come work here, I want you to sell it hard.
Absolutely. You got to push for it. And this is where the PR comes in. The HR is going to help. Marketing even comes in. Be able to have a universal communication process of what's happening there.
It's peer-to-peer. It's employees. Mm-hmm. It's managers talking about, having a good interview process to say, is this going to be my boss? Yuck.
And not creating an us versus them situation.
It's going to be credit union wide. It's going to be the ads you have on radio, TV, and social media, on and on. It's a multifaceted approach to get this done. Don't give up on the internals, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not a matter of, we've got to defend all of the culture. Well, no, culture evolves. Culture changes.
Yeah.
Make sure you hang on to your launch points or your footholds. Keep those, and those are non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And there, let's be agile.
Okay. Jeff?
Oh, yes. Well, the up or out is over.
Wait.
What?
How long did it take you to do this chart?
Very, very short.
3 days.
No, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
I just want to get proper. This is a Jeff original.
I ain't got a witness and I can't prove it, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
It's. But now, please tell us what we're looking at.
The whole concept here is that, as we alluded to at the beginning here, that it's no longer a ladder. It's not rung after rung after rung. It's not a step up. There are times that you can actually step back in your career. You can step aside. It's a lateral movement. Our concept here, and I kind of love the idea of it's like a rock climbing wall. Sometimes you have to look down a little bit to your right to take that step to get a good foothold to move forward and continue on. So having a career progression design internally is extremely important. Understand that it's not just teller 1 to teller 2 to teller supervisor to assistant branch manager. There's other directions. There are other steps. The key here, though, is that we have to make sure that we're really allowing our performance management process to start showing those people. If somebody has a proclivity to look for lending, are we having HR, our processes in place, or our managers capable of communicating, this person really seems like they would do very well in lending. What can we do to help them guide in that direction? Or, if they have an interest in that, what can we do to get them where? So having a capability of moving left, moving right, straight up, down, so on and so forth, it's not just next step.
Yeah, and a challenge sometimes isn't when you put a competency model together, you ask the superstar, well, what makes you special? What is your secret sauce? It's the absolute worst question you can ask.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, how do you throw it? You just throw it. Right?
Yeah, look at there. The game slows down. I throw it right there.
and I'm very disappointed when other people can't do that.
It's not like this is hard or anything.
So whether it's HR or frontline managers observing these people, that's when you say emotional intelligence. I mean, you know it when you see it in action, but you put it on paper, it falls flat. Right?
Yep.
It's just one dimensional. You see a person doing, you go, wow. And then go to other departments and see people getting it. That's how you build the culture that you want. And it is person by person.
Absolutely.
And these people will surprise you. But if you're so caught up in that up or out culture and, here's the 23 things you need to do to prove you got the next job, education might be low on the list.
Yep.
Right?
And that's something
your degree might be the last thing that we need.
Absolutely. And it's a big thing with the markets right now is that the education, fortunately and unfortunately, has been lowered down as far as market value goes. Experience is the big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got your IT degree from 30 years ago, is it truly valuable today? Yes, to a degree, but no, not so much. It's your experience that you're bringing to the situation.
And the other thing we'll leave you with today is this idea of workforce readiness or workforce preparation.
Close enough.
Come on, help me out.
It's not as long as it's not the H version
preparedness. Workforce readiness.
Workforce readiness.
We'll go with that one.
Summarize.
Thank you. This idea is that the community college system is built on getting people ready for these specific competencies, whether it's HVAC, a specific trade, or to go into medical, diagnostic, or whatever. We need to do the same thing in the financial services. We need to make sure we got workforce readiness. Going to high schools, going to community colleges, building those folks. They're natural fits to be in technology. We got spots.
Yeah.
But, and it's hunting, not gathering. And I've said that many times over these webinars last few months. This is what HR needs to do for us.
And the good thing is this is not new. This is not revolutionary.
No.
We're not changing the foundation of business itself.
You know what we would tell people in the 90s because people did this? We're going to the mall.
I'm going to shake some hands.
We get in the credit union van, we'd go to the mall, and we'd just go look at people giving great customer service.
Yep.
And then we'd hand that card saying, you need to come work for Craig. And more stable, different hours, on and on. What happened to our field trip, so to speak?
It's the same mentality. I mean, I did this. I remember I used to rent cars constantly. And I'd go to this one enterprise location. And the person there, you could tell they were fairly new, but my gosh, they were just customer oriented. Everything was, I'll take care of that. They were flying all over the place. And I literally told her, I was like, look, you've got to apply for, the BB&T. I was at the BB&T at the time. You got to apply for this.
You're not supposed to use.
The APQ. I don't know. You need to apply for this particular position. You're going to do phenomenal in this one, and it was just that opportunity to really, but there you go. It's the same kind of thing. The HR kind of touches base with that, gets down to understanding, looking for those key skills, those acquisition skills, and bring them into the organization.
Okay. So I think that wraps it up, Jeff, for today.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We do sincerely appreciate it. We're going to have part 5 coming to you shortly, where we're actually going to start talking about another topic when we go into the HR. We'll be looking at breaking the just-in-time recruiting cycle. So we're going to be talking about, again, hunting, gathering, not hunting. Sorry, I got that backwards. But we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again.
Thanks for tuning in. Take care.